The manhunt is intensifying. U.S. authorities just announced a massive $10 million bounty for the capture of one of El Chapo's most dangerous sons. And the reason behind this unprecedented reward reveals just how desperate the situation has become. We're talking about Jesus Alfredo Guzman Salazar, also known as Alfredito and Menor, who is wanted in connection with an HSI Nogales, Arizona, investigation into the Sinaloa Cartel. He is a leader in a broad conspiracy that began in 2008 and continues to present day, in which he and his three brothers, known as the Chapitos, inherited their father, the notorious Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán-López's drug trafficking networks. But this isn't just another drug bust story. This is about a criminal empire that has evolved into something far more dangerous than anything we've seen before. And to understand just how powerful and ruthless these sons have become, we need to go back to where it all began, with the rise and fall of the world's most notorious drug lord. Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán wasn't just a drug dealer, he was a billionaire criminal mastermind who built the Sinaloa Cartel into one of the most powerful criminal organizations on the planet. His son, Jesus Alfredo Guzmán Salazar, known as El Gordo, the Fat One, then 23 years old, was suspected of being a member of the cartel and was indicted on federal charges of drug trafficking in 2009 with Guzman by the U.S. District Court of Northern Illinois, which oversees Chicago. Authorities described Guzmán Salazar as a growing force within his father's organization and directly responsible for Sinaloa's drug trade between the U.S. and Mexico, and for managing his billionaire father's growing list of properties. When El Chapo was finally captured and extradited to the United States in 2017, many thought the cartel would crumble. They were dead wrong. Instead, Joaquín Guzmán-López, Ovidio Guzmán-López, Iván Archibaldo Guzmán Salazar, and Jesus Alfredo Guzmán Salazar, known collectively as the Chapitos, have become increasingly influential in the synthetic drug trade and other criminal economies in North and Western Mexico. Ovidio, Iván, and Jesus Alfredo were apparently brought into the Sinaloa Cartel's criminal operations at a young age as teenagers by their father and another top Sinaloa Cartel figure, Ismael Zambada Garcia, alias El Mayo, in order to learn the ins and outs of the organization. They began to assume a more prominent role in the mid to late 2010s, around the time their father was arrested and extradited to the United States. These weren't just spoiled rich kids playing with daddy's money. They were being groomed to become the next generation of criminal masterminds. And then came the moment that would define their legacy forever, the Battle of Culiacán. The Battle of Culiacán, also known locally as the Culiacanazo and Black Thursday, was a failed attempt to capture Ovidio Guzmán-López, of Sinaloa Cartel kingpin Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán, who was wanted in the United States for drug trafficking. On 17th of October 2019, a convoy consisting of 35 police officers and soldiers drove up to Ovidio's house in the Tres Rios neighborhood of Culiacán, Sinaloa. Initial government reports claimed that this convoy was doing a routine patrol of the area at the time and only approached the house after being fired upon. But after the battle, authorities admitted that the arrest was a pre-planned military operation done in response to a U.S. extradition request. What happened next was unprecedented. Around 700 cartel gunmen began to attack civilian, government, and military targets around the city, despite orders from Ovidio sent at security forces' request. This wasn't just a shootout, it was urban warfare. Following Thursday's localization of Ovidio Guzmán, Culiacán exploded in violence with armed civilians in trucks roaring through the city's center, shooting what appeared to be 50 caliber sniper rifles and machine guns. Videos published on social media showed a scene resembling a war zone with gunmen, some wearing black ski masks over their faces, riding in the back of trucks, firing mounted machine guns. The Mexican government faced an impossible choice. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador defended the decision to release Ovidio, arguing it prevented further loss of life, insisting that he wanted to pacify the country and did not want more massacres, and arguing that the capture of one drug smuggler could not be more valuable than the lives of innocent civilians. While admitting that the security forces underestimated the cartel's manpower and ability to respond, López Obrador also clarified that criminal processes against Ovidio were still ongoing, sending 8,000 troops and police reinforcements to restore peace in Culiacán. But the damage was done. The Chapitos had just proven they could hold an entire city hostage and force the Mexican government to back down. This humiliating defeat sent shockwaves through law enforcement agencies on both sides of the border. Regardless of the rationale behind the decision, the Sinaloa Cartel and their armed affiliates Gente Nueva, Los Chapitos, had effectively defeated the Mexican military and deprived them of not only a major city, Culiacán, but an entire state, Sinaloa. The sons of El Chapo had just announced to the world that they were not just inheriting their father's empire, they were expanding it. But who exactly are we dealing with? Through its narcotics rewards program, the U.S. Department of State offers a reward of up to $5 million for information, leading to the arrest and/or conviction of Joaquín Guzmán-López and Ovidio Guzmán-López, as well as a reward of up to $10 million for information leading to the arrest and/or conviction of Iván Arquivaldo, Guzmán Salazar, and Jesus Alfredo Guzmán Salazar. Commonly referred to as Los Chapitos, the Little Chapos, or Los Menores, the minors. The brothers, Ivan Arquivaldo Guzmán Salazar and Jesus Alfredo Guzmán Salazar, alongside their stepbrothers Ovidio Guzmán-López and Joaquín Guzmán-López, designated today, lead a powerful faction of the Sinaloa Cartel. Jesus Alfredo, the focus of this latest bounty, is considered by many to be the most dangerous of the brothers. Jesus Alfredo Guzmán Salazar, known as Alfredillo, is believed to be at the top of the heap. He's now under indictment in Chicago, charged with trafficking and conspiracy. And unlike his flashy brothers who post their wealth on social media, Jesus Alfredo operates more in the shadows, making him even more dangerous. The scale of their operations is staggering. Jesus Alfredo Guzmán Salazar and his brothers assumed and consolidated control over El Chapo's faction of the cartel, and subsequently coordinated drug trafficking activities to smuggle large quantities of cocaine, generally in shipments of hundreds or thousands of kilograms at a time, as well as multi-kilogram quantities of heroin, methamphetamine, and marijuana from Mexico across the United States border, and then throughout the United States. The Chapitos and other members and associates under their command in the Sinaloa Cartel also have utilized violence in Sinaloa and the United States to protect their drug distribution activities. But it's not just the traditional drugs anymore. In particular, the group has adjusted to shifting drug markets and become ever more involved in the synthetic drug trade, especially with regards to trafficking the powerful synthetic opioid fentanyl. Los Chapitos-controlled laboratories are responsible for introducing fentanyl in counterfeit pills manufactured by the Sinaloa Cartel and trafficked to the United States. Los Chapitos' dominance over fentanyl trafficking is largely the result of the faction's capacity to procure precursor chemicals, while also controlling production via its secret laboratories in Sinaloa. This isn't just about getting people high anymore. This is about mass death. Fentanyl is killing tens of thousands of Americans every year, and the Chapitos are the ones flooding our streets with this poison. The violence they're willing to use is beyond anything we've seen before. This included obtaining guns and other weapons, bribing public officials, inciting, engaging, and threatening violence, to include murders, kidnappings, assaults, and battery against law enforcement, rival drug traffickers, and members of their own drug trafficking organization. Iván's leadership of Los Chapitos has sparked an alarming spate of violence in Mexico and the United States against civilians, law enforcement, and rival cartel members. Alfredo, serving as lieutenant to his brother Ivan, has participated in the torture of rivals to solicit information about potential infiltration into Los Chapitos-controlled territory. The Mexican government tried again in 2023, and this time they were more prepared. In early January of 2023, the Mexican military again successfully detained Ovidio Guzmán. While the Sinaloa forces again triggered a wave of regional unrest and employed high-powered weaponry to engage military vehicles and helicopters, this time the Mexican authorities were able to transfer Guzmán to a maximum security prison in Mexico City before going on to restore order in Sinaloa. The operation entailed the deployment of approximately 3,800 military personnel as opposed to the 8,000 used in 2019 to restore order. But even with Ovidio in custody, the violence didn't stop. The current situation has become even more chaotic. In July 2024, Joaquín was arrested in the United States after flying there on a private plane with El Mayo, who claimed Joaquín had kidnapped him. In May 2025, Ovidio agreed to cooperate with U.S. prosecutors. Although Ovidio and Joaquín are now in U.S. custody, Iván and Alfredo remain fugitives in Mexico. In a stunning parallel to the sons he left behind, El Mayo himself recently stood in a New York federal courtroom and confessed to 5 decades of leading the Sinaloa Cartel.
Transnational criminal organizations. We've made remarkable progress. Just to give you a few examples, under President Trump's direction, the United States State Department designated the Sinaloa Cartel, together with 5 other cartels and MS-13 and TDA, as foreign terrorist organizations due to the serious threat that they pose to our national security. As a result, the DOJ has already charged leaders of the Sinaloa Cartel with narco-terrorism and charged alleged members with supporters of TDA, MS-13, and CJNG, currently one of the most violent cartels in Mexico. They provided material support to a terrorist organization. We are calling these drug kingpins what they are: international narco-terrorists that invade our country, threaten the sovereignty of our borders, and destroy our communities. They are terrorists, and we will prosecute them like they are terrorists. Since President Trump took office, Mexican authorities have expelled more than 50 high-ranking cartel leaders and other dangerous criminals to our country to face prosecution. More than 50. These are historic numbers that ensure that these criminals will face justice and face justice on American soil. We now have leaders from CJNG, Sinaloa, and Los Zetas in custody. Our prosecutors in the Criminal Division and the Northern District of Illinois obtained a guilty plea from Ovidio Guzmán-López, the son of El Chapo, and another leader of the Sinaloa Cartel, the co-founder. Just a few weeks ago, on August 14th, we announced criminal charges against 5 cartel leaders and high-ranking members of these united cartels. We will not rest until Americans are safe from these narco-terrorists. Thanks to our law enforcement officers, both here and in Mexico, who often put their lives on the line every single day to protect us and to get these violent leaders off the streets. We are not done yet. At President Trump's direction, we will continue to fight until every single cartel boss is behind bars and on American soil and in American prisons for the rest of their lives. Thank you.
He admitted to trafficking over 1 million kilos of cocaine into the United States, ordering killings to maintain control, and systematically bribing Mexican police, military, and political officials to ensure his criminal empire could operate freely. After successfully evading capture for decades and never spending a single night behind, D-Bars, the 76-year-old drug lord's confession, marked an extraordinary moment in the war against the cartels. The guilty plea represents a seismic shift in the war against the cartels.
This group really just unleashed unspeakable violence, not only against rivals of the organization, but also innocent people. He also said that in order to maintain the drug trade, he had to bribe police, military, and political officials in Mexico in order to allow the organization to operate freely. So he said this all in open court before the judge told them that as part of the plea plea agreement with the government, he would be sentenced to life in prison. It is a mandatory minimum, especially for that charge of leading a criminal enterprise. We spoke to his lawyer, Frank Perez, after the hearing, and the lawyer said that this is in no way a cooperation agreement, that he does not plan to speak against anybody else.
Attorney General Pam Bondi called it a landmark victory, declaring that El Mayo will spend the rest of his life in a U.S. federal prison and die behind bars. The man who co-founded the Sinaloa Cartel alongside El Chapo, who made billions of dollars flooding American communities with cocaine, heroin, and fentanyl, has finally been brought to justice. His reign of terror, which included ordering countless murders and maintaining power through extreme violence and corruption, is officially over. But while El Mayo's story ends in a federal courtroom, his protégés, the Chapitos, continue their deadly work. And the war between different factions of the cartel has exploded into unprecedented violence. Since September 2024, turf wars between Los Chapitos and its rivals have engulfed the Mexican state of Sinaloa, resulting in the deaths of over 600 people. The level of brutality is shocking even by cartel standards. The Associated Press reported that gunmen used cell phone chats to identify potential targets. Armed men would stop individuals and search their contact lists, chat logs, or photos. If they found any connection to a rival faction, the person was either executed or kidnapped. This isn't just criminal warfare, this is systematic terror designed to control entire populations through fear. So why is the U.S. offering $10 million for Jesus Alfredo specifically? The answer lies in the timing and the confusion surrounding recent bounties. The article mentions that there's some ambiguity about whether this bounty overlaps with other rewards, but what's clear is that authorities are desperate to capture the remaining Chapitos leaders before the situation gets even worse. Jesus Alfredo represents everything that's wrong with the current situation. Ivan Archivaldo Guzmán Salazar and Jesus Alfredo Guzmán Salazar are charged in both the Northern District of Illinois and Southern District of New York. They are not in custody, and warrants have been issued for their arrests. The U.S. State Department has issued rewards of up to $10 million for information leading to their arrests and convictions. He's got federal warrants in multiple jurisdictions. He's considered armed and extremely Rouse, and he's been running these operations since 2008. The $10 million bounty isn't just about one man, it's about sending a message. The U.S. government is saying that they will pay more for information leading to the capture of these cartel leaders than they've ever paid before. This is the same amount typically reserved for international terrorists, and that's exactly what these men have become. Narco-terrorists who are poisoning American communities and destabilizing entire regions of Mexico. But here's what makes this situation even more dangerous. The Chapitos have proven they're willing to go to war with government forces and win. They've shown they can shut down entire cities, defeat military operations, and force governments to negotiate. They're not just drug dealers anymore. They're running a shadow state within Mexico, complete with their own military forces, intelligence networks, and political connections. The recent escalation in Sinaloa shows just how out of control things have gotten. On 21st October, Mexican forces engaged in one of the deadliest confrontations of the decade, resulting in the deaths of 19 cartel members and the capture of El Max, a high-ranking member of La Mayiza. The following day, a narco banner from Los Chapitos appeared in Culiacán aimed at Ismael Zambada Siqueiros, leader of the La Mayiza faction. The banner threatened to turn Zambada over to U.S. authorities and mocked him over the military operation leading to El Max's capture, claiming government support was on their side. They're now openly taunting their rivals and claiming they have government support. The human cost of this war is staggering. We're talking about hundreds of people dead in just a few months, entire communities living in terror, and a drug trade that's evolved from smuggling cocaine to manufacturing weapons of mass destruction in the form of fentanyl pills. The Chapitos aren't just continuing their father's legacy, they're surpassing it in terms of violence, reach, and the threat they pose to both Mexican and American society. So what does this $10 million bounty really mean? It means the U.S. government has finally recognized that we're not dealing with traditional criminals anymore. We're dealing with a new generation of narco-terrorists who have weaponized everything from social media to military tactics to build an empire that spans continents. Jesus Alfredo Guzman Salazar isn't just El Chapo's son. He's potentially more dangerous than his father ever was because he's operating in a world where the rules have completely changed. The question now isn't whether he'll be caught, it's how much more damage he'll do before that happens. With two of his brothers already in U.S. custody and cooperating with prosecutors, the pressure is mounting. But if the Battle of Culiacan taught us anything, it's that the Chapitos don't go down without a fight. And when they fight, innocent people die. This $10 million bounty represents more than just a manhunt. It's a declaration that the war on drugs has entered a new phase. The children have become more dangerous than their parents, the students have surpassed their teachers, and the next generation of criminals has evolved beyond anything we've seen before. The hunt for Jesus Alfredo Guzman Salazar isn't just about justice. It's about preventing the complete collapse of law and order in one of the most important regions of North America. The clock is ticking, the bounty is set, and somewhere in the mountains of Sinaloa, one of the world's most wanted men is planning his next move. The question is, will $10 million be enough to bring down an empire built on blood, fear, and enough firepower to challenge entire governments? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. This is just the beginning of a story that will reshape our understanding of organized crime for generations to come.